Harry's wife, Bouzy, is clueless. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. Many of you are familiar with Christopher Bouzy, who's found himself entangled in litigation as a consequence of certain things that he's done, and finds himself under scrutiny, both in terms of the legal process and from the media. We know about his bot Sentinel report that came out last year, which had all of the forensic ability of a child's drawing, and one that was ruthlessly taken apart by those that have got more than two brain cells to rub together. There are, of course, as I've explained, a group of people that are invested in Harry's wife because they nailed their colours to the mast early on, and then, notwithstanding the fact that it's quite clear that she's a narcissist and an unpleasant person, they just can't accept that. And rather than go quiet and move on to something else, they continue to bang the drum, making themselves look rather stupid in the process because they're ignoring the evidence. Those of you that have had run-ins with the members of the Sussex Squad, as it's known, will recognise the callings of that particular group of idiots, the sugar lumps as I refer to them. First of all, there is the substandard English. Then there's a repeated squawking of, "You don't know her." Well, neither do you, but we know the evidence. And of course, as I've explained, I've met her, so I do know her to a degree. And one doesn't have to know a person personally to make an assessment of all of the information that's out there about them and that's reported on, taking it from a variety of sources to make that determination over a long period of time that that person is indeed a narcissist. But they will squawk, "You don't know her." Then, of course, there's "Leave her alone," and "You're a racist." That's done without actually knowing what my skin colour or race or ethnicity might be. But they throw it out there because these are simpletons who lack the ability to cogently analyse the evidence, something that I teach all of my clients in their own dealings with narcissists to ensure that they get the right outcome. And of course, it's quite interesting that because they don't really think for themselves, the way that the supporters of Harry's wife, rather than actually look at the evidence, instead what they do is they will trot out a particular mantra. And it's happened again. Daily Hive Canada, in an article by Meghan Devlin, reports Politico magazine slammed for calling Harry's wife a narcissist. Well, I've told you about that article, and of course there's been reaction to it. And it's interesting to have a little look at this reaction and to see the almost hive mind of those individuals involved. Popular news and politics publication Politico is taking heat on social media after publishing an article that characterises Duchess of Sussex Harry's wife as a narcissist. See my parts passing for the accuracy of that label. The opinion piece by Joanna Weiss is titled 2022 is the year we all finally got tired of narcissists, and features an image of several celebrities she mentions as having narcissistic tendencies, Harry's wife, Donald Trump and Elon Musk among them. All of them used attention as currency and ego as fuel, and were rewarded for a time with what they craved, Weiss writes. All of us have some degree of self-love, which probably explains our behaviour on Facebook and Instagram, but the grandiose narcissists stand apart. She points to the manicured nature of Netflix's new Harry and Harry's Wife's documentary series on Netflix, where she writes the couple appears to have cashed in on their dramatic exit from the royal family. The legitimate complaints are wedged between glamour shots, from footage of Harry's wife getting fitted for ball gowns, to a vast collection of flattering photos and videos they took during their royal exit, apparently preparing for a photogenic tell-all, Weiss writes. Even sympathetic critics have groused that there's little new here beyond the vanity. Although the ex-royals couple's lust for the spotlight may be relatively benign, other famous narcissists can have more serious consequences for society, Weiss argues. She points to Ye's recent anti-Semitism, Sam Bankman-Fried, who's been indicted for fraud and money laundering, and Elon Musk's cacophonous destruction of Twitter. Weiss's piece is far from the first to criticise Harry's wife's royal exit as a bid for attention, but it's in the crosshairs of Harry's wife's supporters. Placing Harry's wife at the centre of criminals and anti-Semites is not an accident. The hate for Harry's wife is palpable. A woman of colour protecting her family and defending herself isn't narcissism, it's survival. Christopher Bouzy tweeted before calling on the magazine to apologise. "Mr. Bouzy, you do not understand what narcissism is." The identification of her narcissism is based on her acting with a sense of entitlement. It's demonstrative of her self-obsessed nature. The fact that she orders people around, that she expects an immediate response to what she requires, that she engages in the shelving dynamic, parking people because she sees fit that that's the appropriate thing to do with them, because they're actually appliances to her. She tells lies. That has been demonstrated repeatedly and is demonstrative of her lack of accountability. She will only help people on a transactional basis because it makes her look good. She has no genuine friends. Ask those who've been picked up, chewed up and spat out. Do they feel that they're friends of hers? She offers nobody any meaningful emotional support. It's part of a facade. She doesn't stick to arrangements. She does one thing and then carries out another. She doesn't address her relationship issues in a meaningful fashion. It's never her fault. It's always someone else or something else's fault. She engages in showmanship. She thinks she's better than she actually is. She uses flowery, ridiculous language. She engages in exaggeration. She boasts. She's vain. She engages in monologues. She thinks she's cleverer than she actually is. She experiences magical thinking, believing that she is the star of her own show. She's rude, condescending. She badmouths colleagues. She badmouths family. She's dismissive, arrogant, holds court. She thinks she's always right. She is poor when it comes to exhibiting patience towards certain people. She has a reputation for being difficult. She engages in flattery, bribery, the telling of lies, triangulation with people, triangulation with objects, triangulation with events, future faking, present silent treatments and absent silent treatments, backhanded compliments, pity plays, smearing, promised gain, false compassion, false contrition, invalidation, belittlement, withdrawal, denial, guilt, provocation, projection, blame shifting, word salad, triangulation with children, use of threat, control through finances, use of insult, use of fury, the revision of history, gaslighting, alienation, shouting, feigned misunderstanding, argumentativeness, bullying, intimidation, deflection, false accusation, list of required improvements, isolation, sexual withdrawal, cross-examination, accusations out of nowhere, vagueness, promised change, use of vulnerability against a victim, finding of fault, use of ill health, suicide threat, hijacking conversation, circular conversations, bringing up the past, false problems, feigned illness. She lacks boundary recognition. She's overly tactile, prying, prone to cross-examination, doesn't allow privacy, engages in incessant messaging of people. She monopolizes people's time, engages in mirroring. There's familial discord, facade management. She sees others as an extension of herself. There's character trait acquisition, black and white thinking. She exhibits a need to assert control. She exhibits a response to a perceived threat to that control. She engages in hypocrisy, exhibits envy, objectification, compartmentalization, paranoia, hoovering, one-upmanship, use of a seductive stare. She has various hunting grounds. She's deluded. There's the rejection of intimacy, many intimate relationships, seamless intimate partner primary sources, competitiveness, acts as a moral guardian, engages in love bombing, use of pet names, cycling of friends, engages in the shelving dynamic, use of a bolt hole, drops the narc bomb, micromanages, spoils occasions and is superficial. She lacks emotional empathy as a consequence of manipulative behaviours and the treatment of children. All of this is backed up by evidence. This all demonstrates her narcissism. It is not about protecting her family and defending herself. It is about her narcissism in the pursuit of the prime aims. Christopher Bouzy hasn't got a clue. Why? Because he's invested in her as a potential paymaster, which I understand Nate the lawyer is uncovering, and that he has a vested interest in continuing to bully and intimidate people through various social media profiles and platforms in order to allow him to get paid and to run a business. He, like so many of her supporters, holds himself out as being kind, yet all you need do is look at the thumbnail that accompanies this video to see the nasty comment that he had made about the then Cambridges. But he's not the only one, of course. Author Dante Stewart wrote, putting someone like Harry's wife in the group called Narcissist with the likes of Donald Trump and Elon Musk is not just deeply respectful, it shows just how deeply anti-black and misogynist people really are. Well, hang on a second. Why aren't you defending Kanye West and saying that he's the victim of racism if he's been labelled as a narcissist? But is it okay to label Kanye West as one? And it's okay to label Donald Trump as one, and Elizabeth Holmes as one, and Elon Musk as one, because you don't like those individuals, because they don't fit with the profile. But they are all narcissists in the same way that Harry's wife is. It is not disrespectful. It is truthful. It is accurate. Somebody called Nick Lapara writes, a black woman standing up for herself. Out of everyone, you go after her. Delete this bullshit. Do better. Notice the same theme. Standing up for herself. She isn't standing up for herself. Her narcissism is asserting control by seeking to nullify the threat to control. Somebody called Kirsten Powers writes, there is literally no planet where Harry's wife belongs with this group of people. Actually, there is. It's called Planet Narcissist, and she's well at home with all of them. And if you don't recognize that, you simply do not understand narcissism. And I would invite all of those individuals to put aside their preconceptions and embrace the huge body of work that I have provided here, both in terms of talking about narcissism, its various facets and dynamics, and the various narcissists that are identified and explained in detail, along with the ones that aren't. I have no personal axe to grind with any of the people that go under the Tudor scope. I do it because they're obvious narcissists, that there are excellent teaching mechanisms for all of you. And these individuals that have Twitter followings immediately jump to the wrong conclusion. What they do is dangerous. What they do is allow my kind to carry on doing what we want, because rather than see it for what it is, narcissism is described as something else. Oh, she's just defending her family. She's protecting herself. No. In a form, she's doing that through the nullification of the threat to control, but it is narcissism. And each of these individuals stressing that it's not are committing a grave error. But of course, they're not able to put aside their vested interests in a particular narrative of their own. I've explained, I don't have any prejudices. I hate everybody equally. And if a narcissist comes along and I identify them as such, I will say that that's the case. And if they're not, I will similarly say so. I don't need to curry favour with them. I don't need to curry favour with their supporters. Indeed, I've been attacked for calling out Harry's wife, for calling out Taylor Swift, for calling out Donald Trump and so forth. I don't give a rat's ass. You're just giving me fuel, and it just demonstrates how much more work needs to be done to educate people about narcissism. These individuals and Christopher Bouzy are clueless when it comes to the issue of narcissism. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.